Okay, so today is the fun part, Nat. So today's wiring. So as you can see, I've got the wiring harness laid out on the bench here. And if we start from the ECU or ECM, whatever you want to call it, I'll have to take all this casing off and take the plugs out. Then we've got this big harness. We've got one that jumps off here that I've got to figure out what that's for. Now this mounts in the engine bay, I'm pretty sure, in these cars. And it just goes into the interior of the car to this, so this will probably house all of our speed and tack and stuff like that. Then it branches off and it goes over to the driver's side of the car, so for all you American people, that's the passenger side. So we've got these looms here, which I'm pretty sure I don't need, so I'll have to figure out what they do. Then it comes off and we've got the driver's side of the injector side of the engine. So we've also got aircon on there, which I won't need, so I'll remove all the loom tape off this and remove all the aircon stuff because I won't need that. And it's just, you know, these two plugs basically will be able to be deleted. Then we've got the other side of the harness, so this will be transmission, which we'll leave that, and then you can see this harness has had a bit of rubbish, so we'll have to fix up those wires, find out what they do first, then fix them up. One's been cut actually, a purple wire, so we'll have to figure out what that is for. Then we've got this side of the loom. This side of the loom's not too bad. We'll still unwrap it, but we pretty much just got injectors and then the air intake temperature sensor at the very end. I'm pretty sure on this side, so it's not too bad. So pretty much just gonna take the pins off the ECU, mark them because they're color coded, and then start stripping all the spiral wrap and stuff off the harness, and then cut out what I don't need, label up what I do need. The only ones that I really need to wire into the car is ECU power, so constant power feed from the battery, ignition switched power, fuel pump relay, tacho, speed, and that's pretty much about it. Then I just need to wire up the OBD. I did actually get an OBD plug as well, which I'll have to find because I don't know where I put it. And oh, here it is. So this OBD port from a Wreckers, it's also out of a Holden, so the pin outs will be the same. So I'll have to wire this in as well for tuning. So they tune via OBD2 on Holdens, and obviously for scan tools and stuff as well. So yeah, it's going to be a busy morning, and then it'll be wiring it into the car, feeding the shifter, and then we're ready for a startup. Alrighty, so I have stripped back the harness and cut out all the wires that I needed. So the three plugs that went that I didn't know what they were for, they were like the body connectors, and I got all the wires out of them that I needed. So I've got, these came out all those three plugs. So I've got fuel pump, relay turn on. I've got fan for you got to put that to a relay, and then you can turn the fans on. Speedo, tacho, battery positives, the brake light switch because you need to push the brake pedal in to start the car, ignition wire, data or serial wire, and the power eco transmission switch. Probably won't be connecting that. Still got these two to find out where they go and then chop them off if needed. And then I've got this whole loom here which came out of those plugs, the wires that come from the engine, that I don't know what they do, so I'll just run that in a separate little harness along with the main harness and then find out what they do. I'm guessing that they're going to be for dash, like so alternator charge or whatever, or maybe not alternator because it runs off a different harness, but things like your coolant temperature and stuff like that for your dash. So I'm guessing that's what they're for, but we'll find that out. So I just need to neaten up the rest of this harness and then wire in the OBD2 plug and then wire it to the other loom for the car. Sweet. Okay, so I fit the harness to the motor and we're hitting on the, if I can
get the camera in there, where the shifter goes on the gearbox. It's where the inhibitor switch, so the park neutral drive switch, goes on, it's hitting the tunnel. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'm going to have to knock that out hopefully. If not, I'm going to have to cut it out, because we do need to reuse that, because that tells the ECU what gear you're in. So, sorry to the neighbours, but I'm going to have to do a bit of hitting. So I've run all the harness on the motor, so it all runs as factory really. Haven't mounted the coils yet. I was still going to get a new spark plug because I smashed this one when I was installing the motor. Had chains around the exhaust when I was getting off the trailer and managed to smash one of the plugs. And these plugs are pretty expensive, so it's about $150 for a full set. So I don't really want to be replacing all of them. So I'm going to take a few out, check them. If they're good, I'll just replace the one for now. And we'll replace them all later on or something like that. So the harness just runs around. The gearbox section's all good. It doesn't run in the factory clips because it's too close to the tunnel, but there's lots of room there. So now we just got this section of the harness. So we've got the plugs here. I'm just going to leave it off for now. I'm not going to put the clamps on the back just yet, just in case we have some problems we need to fault find. So I'm just going to run these down into the car now. I'm going to try go through the wheel arch here and through the grommet there. There should be enough room, hopefully. If not, then I'll punch out one of my holes here and put it through there. But it'd be a lot cleaner if it just sort of hooked in there and gets whistled away. So then we'll have to just wire it up to the car. So if we go into the car, have a look. I've got the harness that used to run from the front passenger side. This carries all your wires you need for your ECU. It usually has about 25 wires or so in there, but I've cut them all out and just ran it in a new conduit. So it's nice and small, up in the wheel guard, so it's not going to get rubbed by a tyre. And then we just got fuel pressure, battery positive, and ignition wire. So this is just a battery positive, just for the memory of the ECU. Obviously fuel pump for the fuel pump, and the ignition to run the ECU and power your coils and everything else. So that's really all we need to turn the ECU on and run the car. And then we just got some ancillaries that aren't exactly required, but we won't be using this. This is the mill, so your fault light. We've got starter. We won't need that for LS, I don't think, but it's there if we do. That's just starter trigger wire. And then we've got vehicle speed sensor. We'll have to go through a Dakota digital box for that one, because the LS reads something crazy per revolution, so it's definitely not going to read correctly. And then we got tacho, which I think should work. From what I've read, the LS puts out a four-cylinder tacho pulse, so, and apparently you can adjust it in the ECU, but we'll see how it goes. Not too phased about that. We can always adjust that with, like I say, Dakota boxes in the future. So that's pretty much the harness. I've also got the OBD2 plug that I'll wire in at the same time. It just needs I'll show you actually. So the OBD only needs 4 wires. It just needs constant power, 2 ground wires, a signal ground and a chassis ground, but you can chassis ground them both. And then just this yellow wire here, which is your data serial wire. So just 4 wires, 2S, data serial, and constant power or ignition if you want to do it that way. And that's all she needs. So we'll run it into the car now and wire it all up. So before we can start the car, we need to make the starter and alternator circuit, which is a separate little harness on the LS and also on the Silvia. So if you have a look at the Silvia harness, we've got the 3 plugs that plug up near the fuse box, and they are for your gearbox harness, starter motor and alternator circuit. So we've got 3 plugs, we've got an earth cable, we've got this one here is the reverse switch. Actually that might be speed. I think that actually might be speed, and one of these is reverse. This one used to be, I think, an oil pressure sensor. This one is the alternator. One's a positive battery feed and one's the charge indicator lamp on your dash. This one's the actual alternator plug itself that has positive power to your battery. It's another earth cable. This is the starter motor positive and the starter trigger wire. And then if we look on the LS harness, we've got the alternator power wire. On this side we've got the starter motor wires, and then on this side we've got the earth cable, positive cable, starter motor trigger, which will plug into a connector on the car, and another earth cable. We've also got another earth cable here. These are all earth to the body and the engine. So we just need to strip back this harness, label what wires do what, just using continuity and checking where the wires go. And then we just need to hook up the starter trigger to that plug there, and the alternator, we need to make a loom for that and join it with this harness, because on the car that I got out of, the alternator loom was within the engine loom, whereas on this new harness that I got, which is out of an older car, the alternator loom was integrated. So let's get started. Okay, so I've wired up everything in the car. So this is our wires in from the actual silvia, and these are the wires out, which go to the battery, which is just the data cable, ignition wires, positive wires, and that's about it. Then I've wired them also to the OBD connector. So when we wire the OBD connector, all there is on pin 1, I think it was the signal wire, or pin 2, signal wire. Pin 4 and 5 are the earth cables. So you can see these two down here on the underside. So you've got signal wire, which is the data wire, which is the yellow one there on pin 2. Pin 4 and 5 are the earth cables. And pin 16, which is this orange one here, is the power wire. And that's it, 4 wires. That's all we need for the OBD. See, I've put them both to an earth cable, which I'll earth in the car. Then we've got the actual standard silvia connector here, which is all your speed and tacho and stuff that goes to your dash. All I've got out of there currently is just the tacho. The speed I'm going to have to put through a Dakota digital box, and the other wires I won't need. So that's about it for under here. I've connected it to the ECU again. I just need to get some tiny little cable ties to neat this harness up, but I'll leave it for now. I've just taped the harness a bit nicer, so it's a bit more rugged, it's not going to get caught. And these are all the wires that were left over in the harness that they went from the body connectors, but they went up the harness to something else, so they're probably your stuff for the dash, like coolant temp and oil pressure and blah blah blah, all that sort of shit. So probably won't end up needing them, so I'll leave them there for now, and I can fault find later if need be, but I shouldn't need those. There's also some more wires here that I haven't hooked up yet. So they've got speedo. As I said before, I'm going to need that box. The fan, I'll run that up in the engine bay to a relay. That's the negative wire for the fan, so the negative off your relay for the switch will go to this wire, so you'll still need a positive. So you run 2 positives from your battery, one for the fan, one for the actual switch for the relay, this to negative, and then run the other lead out of the relay to your fans. And then this is the brake light switch. I think it's negative. It's doesn't have continuity when the brake pedal is pushed, so it might start. We'll see. And this is the power eco button, which I probably won't connect, but might connect that later. So we'll leave that there for now. Okay, so we just need to make the alternator and starter wire harness, connect that, and we should be ready to turn this thing over. Okay, so I've stripped back the harness, worked out what everything does. So this 2-pin plug here, the black and white one's your starter, and your white one is your alternator positive. Then on this one, this plug here, your green and blue tracer, and your green and white tracer are your reverse lights. The white one with red tracer is your alternator trigger wire, and your speedo is your yellow and blue and yellow and black. And the other wires are neutral position switch and must be oil pressure or oil pressure switch. So I'll just cut off the ones that I need now and wire it all up.